God have mercy on us all.
Hey everyone, welcome to the last voyage of the Demeter spoiler discussion. Since the film has been out for a little while, I didn't get a chance to see it until now. I decided to make this a spoiler review / discussion because I really want to talk about this story and how the horror works. Also, you will absolutely make my day if you subscribe for more videos, or especially if you leave a comment. I would love an interactive discussion about this film. So again, this spoiler-filled video will be a bit longer than usual since I'm going to dissect why the horror in this story works. First off, let me say that I am a horror fan and I love vampire stories. This has been a genre that I have followed for as long as I can remember. One of my first memories as a child was watching Bela Lugosi in the 1931 version of Dracula. I was really young, and that night I woke up to noises outside my window, and I was sure Dracula was there, floating in the air, just watching me. Yeah, I know, it was just my imagination, kind of a dream-laced childhood fear coming out, but you know, it stayed with me, and I consumed horror stories after that because I was convinced that if I learned all that I could about monsters, I would be able to kill them, whether I was asleep or awake. So this is how I think when I watch horror. It's why I have a high bar for films that claim to be horror. It's really hard to scare me, which actually makes the horror genre so much more fun. And I think The Last Voyage of the Demeter is a terrific film. It does all the things that a good horror story should do, and it does it pretty well. To be clear, this isn't a slasher, blood and guts film full of explosions and mayhem. That's a different kind of horror that is human-based and requires a different type of horror storytelling. The Last Voyage of the Demeter is supernatural horror, much of which takes place in the imagination. Plus, because this is a part of the Dracula novel, it has rules with known characters that take place in an established story world that is familiar territory for the audience. This makes it especially challenging to craft a well-told story because the audience isn't learning the rules with the characters. We already know them. Instead, we are monitoring the characters' adherence to the rules, and any deviation will pull us right out of the film, especially since the film has chosen to firmly embrace an existing and well-known story world originally established by Bram Stoker. The film's success really rests on the characters, the imagery and visuals, the plotting, and the unraveling of the mystery. The cast is extremely well chosen, but it's Corey Hawkins who plays Dr. Clemens, who leads the cast. He's grounded, believable, and likable. He comes to the Demeter with his own set of issues in life, being a Cambridge-trained doctor whose skin color keeps him from attaining positions for which he is trained. On the Demeter, he uses his training to kind of think through the problem and the solution to the mysterious nighttime deaths. The writers treated Dr. Clemens seriously as a character, making his actions and reactions ring true to his situation. As a result, everyone else on board the ship gravitates around him, keeping the film from devolving into a panic-driven, hopeless sea voyage. They also do a really good job with Dracula. In the film, the characters don't call him that. He's just the monster. Mostly, he lives in the shadows and you only see him when he attacks. The design they use for him is very bat-like, with leathery skin and long needle-shaped teeth. As the film progresses, he seems to fill out and gets more and more human-like, but we never actually see him in the shape of a man. He is always the monster, not the monster within the man. Great horror stories come at the problem they are addressing with thoughtful characters who don't give up, who don't give into the mania around them, no matter how badass the monster is. And Dracula's pretty badass. This is important because these kinds of characters become the spark of hope within the story. And without a spark of hope, horror just becomes boring, pointless, terror-based storytelling. The other element of success for The Last Voyage of the Demeter is the plotting and solving of the mystery. When you are working within a well-known story like Dracula, you have to figure out how to tell the story of transporting Dracula from Transylvania to London in a realistic way. Even in a fictitious story, it must feel real and plausible. Because of how they choose to tell this story, the writers had to deal with one immutable fact. Since most people coming to this experience of The Last Voyage of the Demeter will be familiar with Dracula's story, they will be fully aware that Dracula arrives in London. That is a canonical fact that cannot be changed. If it changes, then The Last Voyage of the Demeter isn't part of Dracula's story. Therefore, the ship must arrive on England's shore carrying the vampire. This leaves us with two story needs. First, the film needs to acknowledge that the writers know that the audience knows that the Demeter makes it to England. While the condition of the ship when it arrives is open to creative interpretation, it would be disingenuous if the story waited until the end to acknowledge that we all know Dracula arrives in England. So they may as well show us the ship right up front, right from the start, with the opening credits to get it out of the way. And that's exactly what they do. We see the ghost ship broken upon the stony shores of England. It is a haunting image that stays with the audience throughout the film as we are left to imagine how the Demeter came to that state. Second, the film needs to be about the crew's failure to kill Dracula. It can't just be about Dracula picking them off one at a time while they sit around scared and hiding, because that would be boring, and horror is not boring. Horror might be slow, dark, and methodical, but horror should never be boring because good horror happens in our minds. Horror is like the thread connecting the story to the viewer's imagination, with every new shadow and every new revelation spinning out new ideas of what the characters should or shouldn't be doing in order to survive. While we might not expect any of them to survive, given the circumstances of the story, that doesn't mean that they should be lambs to the slaughter. They must fight. And this is the story of how they fought. Because of the high bar with this story, the characters have to be willing to put everything on the table with no holds barred. It's unlikely that anyone will get out of this movie alive, but there's always a chance that someone besides Dracula lives. And that's where the story gold is in this film. They make us care about the characters, and when they make us root for someone to survive, and that someone is Dr. Clemens, because he has the most potential for getting out alive. As a result of these two story needs, the story opens with the battered and bruised image of the Demeter laying wrecked upon the English shore. This, paired with the regular progression of terror during the voyage, keeps us wondering, what's going to happen next? They might not live, but how do they die? And how do they fight? And slowly, our belief that everyone will die is subverted by Dr. Clemens, who is the spark of hope within the story that someone might actually survive. But who and how? These questions are the story fuel for The Last Voyage of the Demeter. As we watch the characters start to think their way out of certain death, one by one, they nail down the facts of what they are facing. There's something in the darkness that kills by biting and drinking blood. If you are bitten, you turn into something inhuman that doesn't breathe or have a pulse, but that burns in sunlight. The monster hunts the living during the night and hides in the darkness below deck during the day. If the monster's creations can be killed, then the monster itself must be able to be killed. But how? That is the unanswered question in this movie. And frankly, I don't think that the movie was ever meant to answer that particular question, because this is about their survival. This is about their battle with the monster, not necessarily the solution and how to kill it. That's the next progression in the story of Dracula. Since the Demeter is several days from land, when they begin to figure out what's going on, they decide to either sink the ship or kill the creature, because they can't allow it to reach land and to reach a populated area like England. This choice resonates with the best part of human nature, when we realize that there is no hope left for ourselves, and so we assign our hope to others. Still, this is a tricky moment in the story. It's where the logic gets a little soft. They know fire kills people who are changed by this monster, and they know the monster only comes out at night. Therefore, the sun, what you would think, would logically burn it too, or fire would logically kill these creatures or kill the monster. If they are already resigned to sinking the ship as a last resort, why don't they just sink the ship during the daylight hours? The reason is simple. They're only human and they really want to survive. They don't want to give up their ship. And clinging to that truth kind of puts them all in peril. And it's the reason that they don't actually succeed in killing Dracula. And you know what? They haven't actually experienced anything like this before. They still believe they can kill the monster because they don't fully understand it. Plus, there's actually a storm coming in and the sky is not blazing with bright white sunlight. I'm unsure if the characters really thought through the darkening, stormy skies or not, but I would have liked to see them reason this part of it a little more. Instead, they spend what daylight they have planning out how they will spend the last night before landing in England as they try to kill the monster. If they can't kill it, they'll sink the ship. I'm not sure that I quite buy that logic, but you know what? I think it's sort of understandable, and it's easy for me to kind of let them make that connection. It's a decent plan for people who still don't understand the type of monster that they are facing. But you know what? The audience is actively thinking, why don't they just sink the ship in the middle of the day and use the lifeboat to escape? Then the characters should be addressing that question in some way. That's, I think, the one story element that the writers kind of miss on, is that they don't make that a little more obvious, because anytime an audience member, and I think there are a lot of audience members actually thinking that particular question, anytime we're thinking about something like that, the characters should be addressing it. The film's plot comes together in a slow but steady arc, kind of building tension within the story, along with an ever-growing sense of dread, because we, the audience, understand that they don't win. And so we sit in our chairs thinking, just get out, burn it down, burn it all down. That's not an option that the story canon can allow. And so that's something that the characters are not allowed to do. So the writers, and to their credit, they make the characters take actions that are believable, even as we watch in mute horror and dread, as the characters we have grown to care for die as they try to save the people of England from this monster. Again, the one thing the film does exceptionally well in the first act is to introduce us to the crew. It gets us to like them or even love them. And then the monster slowly puts them in danger. Dracula is pacing himself, playing hide and seek to some extent. And clearly, he's reveling in the thrill of creating terror. He really seems to enjoy the hunt. He enjoys the terror that he inspires. And it's very apparent that that is part of what he's seeking with this voyage. After all, he could literally just walk through the ship killing everybody all at once, but he doesn't. He's old, and I think he's kind of bored. He's found someone in Dr. Clemens who has made the passage interesting to him. And so he begins to kind of play this game of cat and mouse with the doctor and the crew. Dr. Clemens, the man of science, is the one putting most of the pieces together to figure out what they are facing. He is the one who finds Dracula's box and his cane. He saves Anna with blood transfusions, and he keeps the others from panicking. Dracula clearly doesn't fear the humans on the ship, and his choice to keep Dr. Clemens around to the end is a sign that he views Clemens as an entertainment, or at least as an interesting enough person to kill last. It's also a great miscalculation on Dracula's part because Clemens turns out to be the sole survivor. And as I wrap up, there's one last clever element in the story that needs to be mentioned. When Dr. Clemens is getting a tour of the boat, he's shown how when you were below decks, you can knock, knock, knock to sound the alert. So people above deck can hear if there's a problem below deck. This is something that the crew does throughout the voyage. It is a recurring sound that helps to build the tension and the terror. In the final scene, when Dr. Clemens is in the pub investigating the location listed on the shipping documents for Dracula's crates, he hears and he looks around startled. He sees a hand on a silver wolf-headed cane, the same cane he found in the monster's crate below deck. Then we see the shape of a man walk by the doctor, quickly dragging his finger along the doctor's neck where Dracula made the cut during the final battle. It's a motion that doesn't draw blood. It's not meant to, but it is meant to inspire fear in the doctor and acknowledgement that Dracula, the monster, sees him and he knows he's there, and the battle continues. It is with that scene we know for certain that Dracula is and has always been playing with the doctor and the crew of the Demeter. It's a fantastic scene and the perfect way to end the film. I'm left wondering if there might be a sequel. This would be a film I would love to see. That is it for now. I hope you enjoyed this discussion, and please let me know what you are thinking. Did the film work for you? Did you like it? What did you think? Thanks so much, everyone. I'll see you later. Bye.